So, students, welcome to the next lecture. We are continuing the classification of coelenterates. As I told you in my previous class, that coelenterates are divided into three classes: hydrozoa, water animals; scyphozoa, these are cup shaped animals. Scyphos means cup. Scyphos means cup. And anthozoa, that is the third class. Anthos means flower, flower type animals. So we'll continue with the second class. We have already talked about hydrozoa. I'm taking the second class, that is scyphozoa. So scyphozoa, as I told you, that these are the cup type or bell shaped or umbrella shaped animals. Mostly they have medusa form where polyform absent or not obvious, means it is just transitory phase which is present, and it is hence because, as I said, medusoid form is present and not very obvious. Polyp is not very obvious, so alternation of a generation is missing, is not there, not there. Okay, so with regard to its symmetry, the animals, as I said, bell shaped. And when we talk about scyphozoa, immediately an example should come into your mind. Jellyfish, you people might have watched jellyfish. You can go on the net, search on the net and find a diagram, find a picture, good picture of jellyfish. So this is, you can say, saucer shaped or cup shaped. So because the shape is like this, symmetry is the radial symmetry. And without stomodium, animals are without stomodium. They have a gastrovascular cavity without stomodium. They have a central part, that is stomach. If you invert this, let me make a good diagram for this. Let's make a jellyfish only. We are seeing it from the oral view. So it has a, this is the stomach, okay, which is the central part. And central part, the stomach, it is produced into gastric pouches. These are the gastric pouches, and these gastric pouches, they have within it the gastric filaments. Let's do it with a different color. The gastric filaments. The gastric filaments are the gastric filaments are present in the gastric pouches, and they bear the nematocysts. Okay, so these are the gastric pouches, and they bear the gastric filaments. And the filaments they bear Nematocysts. Okay, suppose we are making jellyfish, so it has oral arms also. The polyp has a small membrane. Polyp has a small membrane. Wherever the brief phase of polyp is present, I'm making the polyp. This is the this portion is the membrane. Okay. Medusa does not have true vellum. Medusoid form, true vellum is lacking, not present. Vellum doesn't have nerve ring even because, as I told you, hydrozoa has many forms. Polymorphism is exhibited. So I told you about the vellum in that case. So vellum, true vellum was there, and true vellum, it is muscular, and moreover it also bears, it carries within it a nerve ring. Okay, so that is missing here, and but they have ropelia. So true vellum is missing, and there is a nerve ring. There is no nerve ring in the vellum. It is not muscular as it was in hydrozoa. So this is here I am making of hydrozoa, which has a true vellum, which was muscular in my last lecture I told you, and that contains within it a nerve ring. Suppose we had to make it from the oral end. I'll show you. This is the oral end. There's a manubrium. Manubrium is a kind of handle kind of thing which was present in hydrozoans, and the vellum was, this was the vellum which was muscular, that outline, and within it runs the, within this runs the nerve ring. Okay, so that is not the case in Scyphozoa. However, in Scyphozoa, on the margins, there are present, these are the margins, there are present in the notches certain sensory structures in these notched areas. This area is kind of notched, and here are present the ropelia. So let me make it with the yellow color. These are the ropelia. So what are ropelia? Ropelia are the sensory structures, and these are ganglionic concentration of neurons, and they have kind of, they have an eye, plus they have statoliths. Statoliths are the calcium sulfate nodules, means they are sensory in nature. The ropelia are sensory in nature. Mesoglea is comparatively thicker. The mesoglea is comparatively thicker, and it has elastic fibers. So I told you in the beginning, you LS or TS you have to make. So this portion, that is the mesoglea, it is thicker in Scyphozoa, and it has within it these amoeboid cells. It has the elastin fibers. Okay. So you can say elastic fibers. So it is a kind of, it is on the way of evolution. It is almost giving rise to, it has not formed the third layer, but it is undergoing that process. So it is a kind of connective tissue. The nidoblasts, when present, they occur in the gastodermis. They are present in the gastodermis, and moreover, gonads are endodermal in Scyphozoa, and how they gonads they develop in the endoderm, and where they form the gametes and they pass out through the mouth and then into the water. One thing to remember is that all scyphozoans are marine. They are marine. An example, Aurelia, that is your jellyfish. Then another one is the rhizostoma. It is the stalked one, otherwise medusoid. These are medusoid forms. There are certain other feature. One important feature, I told you that it passes through one stage, temporary stage, which is not that obvious. That is the polyp stage. Okay, it undergoes this stage. Otherwise, there is a direct development. It develops from the. It doesn't have any larval stage, but polyp form is temporarily there, which is called as this polyp, which is found in the Scyphozoa, is called as Scyphostoma. And this Scyphostoma, it gives rise to then medusoid forms by transverse cutting, transverse budding, you can say, which is called as the process itself is called as strobulation. And these would form then medusae, and they would grow into adults. So this is how they reproduce. Few examples I told you, rhizostoma. Another example is pericolpa. So that was about the class Scyphozoa. And now next is the Anthozoa. Next class is Anthozoa. And as I explained, Anthozoa means flower type animals. And Anthozoa, they are all marine, mostly fixed. They are majority of these are with a skeleton. They have skeleton that can be external, internal, or internal they can have, which is either horny or calcareous. The corals belong to this category. Okay, so they are only polyforms. Polyforms, medusa absent entirely. If the medusa is absent, no medusa. Okay, so no alternation of generation. Obviously, of generation is there. Symmetry is biradial. Now I explain what is symmetry biradial. Biradial symmetry. That means you can divide the animal polyp on aboral oral end, aboral end. This is the oral end. Okay, the opposite end is aboral end into two equal halves at two planes at right angle to each other. If you cut a TS, you would see something like this. Okay, at right angle to each other, and also you can also cut it by transverse section. So that is the when you cut from a boral to oral end, that is called as sagittal section, and the other one at right angle to sagittal is transverse. That is the biradial symmetry. The biradial symmetry, moreover, it is hexamerous. Okay, so what is hexamerous symmetry? Biradial symmetry. You can divide the whole body into two halves, and each half with six identical parts, okay, corresponding parts, like this. This is your hexamerous biredial symmetry. Then other feature is that gastrovascular cavity has a gastrovascular cavity. It has the stomodium lined with endodermis. With epidermis, and it is divided into mesenteries. Like this is the TS of gastrovascular symmetry. So this would be divided by the septa into parts, and these septa are called as mesenteries, and mesenteries bear nematocysts. These bear nematocysts on them. Clear? So that is the these are the few features. As such, no manubrium is there. No manubrium. Mesoglea, of course, the mesoglea with free amoeboid cells, and of course it also has elastic fibers as in Scyphozoa, and it is much thicker. As I said, it is a polyform. Anthozoa is a polyform. So this polyform, suppose let's make it this way, the polyform, it has much thicker mesoglea as compared to the polyp of hydrozoa. So I'm making the inner layer, and here is the gastrodermal cavity, and I'll make it with a different color. The mesoglea, I would make it with different color. So this is much thicker. This is the mesoglea, and it is much thicker. So I'll make a similar diagram for the hydrozone polyp so that you can compare. I'm making another diagram for the polyp, which is hydrozone, and then you that will make you understand in a clear way. Means the distance between the endoderm and the ectoderm, that is much less. Okay, this is the mesoglea of hydrozone polyp, and this is the outer layer. Let's make the outer layer. So you can see that for your comparison, you can see the mesoglea I've made for the anthozoa, that is much thicker. Okay, so that is the difference. Then there are certain more other differences. Some nidoblasts, they occur in the gastrodermis like that of Scyphozoa, and another important feature is that nematocysts do not have operculum. Nematocysts are without, that is important, are without operculum. I think you remember operculum from my last lecture of the nematocysts. This was the nematocysts. Wherever the nematocysts are present, they had an operculum in the previous types. So this operculum is missing here in anthozoans. Gonads are endodermal, that is similar to Scyphozoa. Gametes are shed in the cavity from where they escape out. An example of this is tubipora. And there are many examples and very interesting examples. So one example is tubipora. Common name for tubipora is the organ pipe coral. Organ pipe coral. Very interesting names these coelenterates have, particularly anthozoans. So how this looks like, I'll just draw this for you people. The tubipora, it has a base plate, and then here are the pipe-like structures. That's why it's called as organ pipe. The base plate, and here are the polyps. So this is your organ pipe. Then another example is L-Cyonium. Another individual, L-Cyonium. Common name for this is Dead man's finger. The dead man's finger. L-sionim looks like this. It has a trunk, thicker trunk, and then branches, many branches that bear over them certain pores and the polyps. This is okay. So there's another example, very common example is Metridium. Common name is sea anemone. So that is all about the classification.